Good evening and welcome to MoHomesteading. This is going to be a little bit of a different kind of video for me. And I am doing this, I think, because I am friends with a lady on YouTube that used to read stories and write stories, and Miss Joy. And I found this old paper that I wrote from college, and I started thinking, I'm gonna document this one. And with all of the friends that I have in the outdoors communities, in the homesteading communities, fishing, hunting, trapping, I think it's important. I think it's important for me to document this one. So I'm going to read you a story about my Papaw. His name was Herman. This is him. Here's who he was. And I hope that all of you outdoors guys or ladies, that your grandkids remember you just like this. I've already read through it like 3 times trying not to cry, so bear with me. Papaw was a definite good old boy. Fishing, hunting, blue jean overalls, baseball caps, gun rack in the back of the truck. Growing up in Tennessee, he had more of a southern drawl than most people around Oklahoma. Sitting in his boat, drinking beer at least when he was younger, and fishing on a hot Oklahoma summer day was heaven to him. Herman was a unique man. My Papaw was a unique man. I believe his solid values and unconditional love for all of us taught me more lessons than I could have ever realized at the age of 10. We would be sitting in the front room doing the nightly bonanza gunsmoke watching ritual, and for some reason he would feel it just a tad bit too quiet. He would call my name, I would turn to answer, and he would make his funny old man face. Cap and false teeth on the table, hair mussed, sticking out everywhere and up and out in every direction. His wrinkled eyes so squinched you could barely see the blue. Bottom lip up to his nose, his neck stretched out like a water turtle reaching for a leaf. He would smile. It was the funniest thing you've ever seen. We would all laugh hysterically, and the quiet was filled with a joyful family presence. Good old boy was the only term you could really think of to completely describe him. He was very much respected by all. You gave him respect as his child, grandchild, relative, or friend, and he deserved it. His children and grandchildren looked up to him the most. He was the center of our family. He was home to us. I learned a certain type of respect for him growing up. But there was one moment I remember the most, was a warm March day. I had finished with basketball practice and hurried home to catch the last of my favorite cartoon, Scooby-Doo. Pulling into the driveway, I parked my bike, not putting it away in the garage as I normally did, because I had planned on going back out after the show was over. Papaw was in the garage, in his normal attire, overalls, white t-shirt, work boots, the cuffs of his overalls rolled up a roll because he wasn't a big man, at least not as far as height was concerned. His dark blue bass fishing cap pushed slightly back on his balding head, tanned from hours of fishing the previous weekend at Texoma. He was making trot line weights, which at 10 I was completely amazed by. He would dig a hole in the ground, the size of which he felt he needed. He heated the metal on a small propane stove on his workbench. Now I'll tell you, that probably was aluminum beer cans, almost positive. And when it was hot enough, He would pour the liquefied metal into the hole. He would then let it cool overnight to be sure that it was solid, and then he dug it up. I watched for a few minutes, asking all those wonderful questions children ask, and went into the house to watch my cartoons. The one thing I didn't put in the story was that he also asked me not to tell Nana that he had dug around the bird bath in front of the house to make these trot line weights. He should have done it, in the back of the yard. And I'll apologize. My face is still swollen, but it's a good story. So anyway, swollen face. Mo has a swollen face. Anyway, I have to put a little levity in here or I'll start crying, and we don't want that. Still in my basketball uniform, I sat in front of the television, enjoying every moment. Papaw came in the front door, picking drops of metal from his rough hands. "Girl, you best get that bike put away. Your Nana will be here in a bit." He called everyone girl or boy. It was just casual. "In a minute," I said. "It's almost over." I didn't look up from the screen. I assumed this was okay with him. Well, you know what assuming does. He walked into the bathroom. A few seconds later, I learned you don't ever tell my Papaw just a minute. He walked back out of the bathroom, the feared razor strap in hand. Now, for those of you that are very young or don't know what a razor strap is, it's two long pieces of leather, and it's to sharpen a flat blade that men used to shave their faces with, like a shaving blade, right? Shaving blade. So he popped my bare leg, just barely, telling you, just like that, and calmly said, "Girl," I said, "you best get that bike put away. Your Nana will be home in a bit." He meant what he said, and I never again had to be told more than once to do anything he said. He wasn't mean or harsh. He just demanded a certain respect, and he got it. No questions. Papaw used to love to, as we said back then, totally gross me out. As a 10-year-old girl, it wasn't hard, and it seemed to intrigue him. One summer afternoon, we were having a family fish fry. Nana and I were getting everything together: sliced purple onions, bread and butter pickles, hush puppies, frying up and preparing the multitude of fish we had in the freezer. Papaw and my cousin Stephen, who was a year or so younger than myself, had gone to check the trot lines and do a little fishing earlier that morning. We heard Steve come barreling through the front door. "Nana, Nana!" He came running into the kitchen with this huge fish story of a 52-pound flathead catfish that Papaw had caught on a trot line. We were all so excited. Papaw came into the kitchen carrying this huge burlap bag and dumped this huge monster of a fish into the sink, and just gleamed with good old boy joy. Now, I will tell you, that bag, I can still smell it now and see the fish. And it was still alive, and it was gigantic, and it was curved up in the sink, and it was still breathing. So finally, they took that nasty thing outside. Now, understand, I'm a little bit different with things now, but back then, and even when I wrote this story, it was before I left the small town, I guess. This is the way I felt. I'll eat fish, I'll cook fish, but I won't clean, kill, or touch fish, and he knew it. "Tanya, Pa wants you to come outside and have your picture taken with the fish." I was like, "Oh, gross. No." And he said, "You better come on." His teeth clenched with that insistent, "you're going to get in trouble" face of his. Outside into the backyard I went. "Come on, girls, stand right there, pick up that fish, and let's take some pictures," my Papaw said. Nana giggled under her breath when a look of complete and total disgust came across the 10-year-old's face. "Herman, she can't hold that thing," Nana said, trying hard to be serious. Okay, girl, put your hands on top of his head and smile." It took me about 5 minutes Sorry, I'm remembering the whole thing. It took me about 5 minutes just to get the courage to do that. And I'll tell you, there was a picture, and I wish I had it. But the picture that I showed you at the beginning is my grandfather, my papa, and the fish. I could always tell when he was trying to disgust me. He would get this look in his eyes and almost fight back the laughter. And Nana always knew too. She would hear me say, "Ah, Papa, that's just gross." The last time I saw him alive was the best conversation we had ever had about his life and mine. I've never been good with death. I always told him that they would never die. A child's dream, I guess. It was Thanksgiving 1987. Fairly cold outside. My mother and I had come up from Mississippi for the holidays, and we were staying with Nana and Papa, of course. We were all sitting around the kitchen table, drinking coffee and eating leftover pumpkin pie, which was really super yummy. I had just left my first husband, who I had married at a very young age, and that was the topic of conversation. Papa said, "I knew that boy was bad the first time I met him." I nudged him gently and said, "Well, why didn't you ever say anything?" He said, "Well, I guess I figured you had to learn your own lessons." After a while, everyone had gone to bed. It was just us two. We were watching television, sitting in my grandparents' matching rocking recliners, the kind with the solid wood armrests. "You know, Tanya, your Nana and I feel really bad about sending you back to your ma after I had that heart attack." I was shocked he had never mentioned anything about this. "I was just very sick, and we decided the way you were about us dying, we didn't want something to happen to me and you be here with me," my papa said. "Oh, stop it," I said. "You two will live another 20 or 30 years. I smiled at him. He got a little more serious then. Said, "Now, girl, I want you to be strong for this family when I go. No grieving, no crying. You be strong." He was serious and his face showed it. I felt closer to him than I ever had before. He said, "I'm really proud of the way you've come up." I've read this story 4 times trying not to cry, so bear with me. I made it pretty far this time. "You're just like your Nana on me." I said, "Thanks, I love you too," and smiled. I got up and kissed him on his bald head, which was a ritual with us, even from when I was a small child. "Yeah, well, I'm off to bed." I kind of smiled and winked at him. "Good night, Papa." "Good night." I smiled and he smiled, as if we both knew we had accomplished something great with this very short conversation. Less than 2 weeks later, my mother and I got the phone call. Almost made it. Hold on. That was good. I made it almost all the way through. Okay, shake it off. Less than 2 weeks later, my mother and I got the phone call. Papa had had a massive heart attack and died instantly. He was 70 years old. December 11th, 1987. In an all-out blizzard, snowflakes bigger than I had ever seen, we laid Papa, the good old boy, to rest. Somehow, I could see him calling my name. Turning to answer. Oh, trying, okay. Turning to answer and seeing that funny face to break the quiet. That is my grandfather in a nutshell. He was a fabulous man. I won't ever forget him. Or my grandmother. To me, this is a very important story. And the reason why, with all of the outdoor guys and gals and homesteading people and the missed generations of teaching children what they need to know, I really felt like it's important for people to understand even my grandkids, how important grandparents are. And for all of those outdoor guys, that they shouldn't underestimate their skills and what they can share with the world, what they can share with the YouTube world, because it's not just YouTube you're sharing it with. It might be someone that didn't have a grandfather like I had, or a father like you, or a grandfather like you, or a grandmother like you. And they might need someone to show them how to go fishing, to show them how to go hunting, or to grow a tomato, or to cook a meal, how to clean a fish. This is kind of a tribute to my grandfather and to all of the outdoor channels that I am friends with. Share your hearts and your knowledge and everything about you with your kids, with your grandkids, with their friends, with YouTube, with the world. Let there be things documented on how you made a trot line weight, on how you rigged a fishing rod. Because I can tell you right now, I would love to have videos of my grandfather and my grandmother where I could watch them anytime I wanted to, where I could show them to my children, to my grandchildren, maybe even my great-grandchildren. And I don't have those. All I have is my visuals and my stories that I can give to them. That grandparents are important and they make a huge difference in people's lives. And if you don't have grandparents, then be the better parent. Be a better parent to your kids if your kids don't have grandparents. Be the grandparent to other kids. Be a parent to other kids. You know, share your knowledge with the world. And remember, being a good old boy is not a horrible thing. It's not. Being a good heart is one of the most fabulous things ever. And if you are my friend and I've called you a good heart, I mean it. It's not a joke. You are my friend. You are a good heart. That's it. Find the beauty in your day every day. It's always there. Hugs to you.